think you've got, I'm really curious. I'm speaking about the body, and for the ones that don't know me yet, I was living with chronic health.
I'm just going to mute everyone just for the moment while you're talking, Kasia.
Yeah. You muted me too. No? Yes, I'm back now. So I lived with chronic pain and aches and pains and chronic fatigue for a long, long time. And when I came across the principles, I was very, very depressed and I was very down, but had found like alternative therapies that sort of kept me going on a certain level of well-being. But it was more surviving than really living. And when I came across the principles, well, first of all, my emotional and mental well-being got stabilized, and I was just a more positive person who felt better within herself. And then I, at some point, started to see how that had an impact on my physical health, and I became really curious. And the more and more I kept looking there, the more I see that there's nothing happening but the principles. All of it is the principles. It just doesn't matter what kind of form. It's if it's an emotion, or if it's a physical symptom, or it's even the body in itself, because there is, without a thought, there cannot be perceived form can't be perceived without thought. So and I kept looking in that direction, and my body got better and better and better. So in that regard, I think I was just lucky that I was able to see that. And of course, I couldn't stop talking about it, and that's when Mick sort of found me, and I'm very, very pleased that we're doing this together now, and that we'll keep talking about it. And of course, now that I've just heard that Marika, is that Marika? Is that a Spanish name? Do you want to unmute? Oh, sounds very Spanish to me.
It's Hungarian.
Oh, Hungarian.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Mm-hmm. So when you said you had a relationship with Sydney Banks for such a long time, I was very lucky that I was able to listen to very old tapes of Sydney Banks, and I very often noticed that he does speak about the body. He does speak about physical health, not a lot, but every now and then he includes it. And the other day I was reading The Quest of the Pearl, which was a book I've never read before. And it sort of reminded me of the story of Second Chance, that there was actually this guy in the main character who had cancer. And after he'd come across the principles, his physical condition had cleared. So I was thinking, oh, wow. So Sid did include the physical body in his writings and his teaching. So I was just wondering, would you like to tell us a little bit about that? How Sid was seeing it with the body?
Well, I can tell you what I saw. And over the years, there were amazing cures, you might want to call it, when people started listening and changes would happen in their bodies. They would look physically different. And sometimes these spontaneous healings, you could call it, took place. And it just became the norm, but it wasn't that people were coming to look for that. Mm-hmm. It was a natural side effect of changing inside, right? When they started living from a different place with a different understanding, sometimes these amazing things took place. And even people who had illnesses that didn't lose the illnesses, how they started living was living with grace, and the illness was not the priority. It was something that you just dealt with, and you lived a beautiful life regardless. And I can say that when I watched Sid himself when he was ill. And he just came from such a beautiful place and graciously accepted where the body is at and lived incredibly in spite of it. So whether the disease or illness comes or goes, you know, we're fortunate if it leaves, but I think his point is to live in the best place that you possibly can. Find the deepest place inside yourself where it's more important. The focus of life is to come from inside. And sometimes healings happen and sometimes they change. They change you physically, sometimes not. But how you experience your illness may change quite a bit. You know, when he was ill and he would share and speak, there was such light and life in his eyes that the physical part became secondary. So I can just say that what really was important was how you live through life. Sid often talked about life being a contact sport, and none of us escape life, or escape death, I should say, right, eventually, because we're human beings. You know, we have different ways in which life ends. So the point is, live as beautifully and healthily as you can, and see what happens. You know, it's just not focusing on the one side, right? You take care of yourself as best as you can, and you look at what's important. So I don't know if that answers your question.
This is lovely. It's really lovely. I mean, knowing that you lived, you know, close to him since you were 19, that's, you know, how many years was that until he died 5 years ago? That's quite a number of years.
Yes,
So,
yes, that's 36 years. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah.
It's just very inspiring, because I keep saying to clients that there's two things that can happen when you look in this direction of where your experience comes from. It's, in one way, you have an easier experience within your body, how it is now. And when this urge of wanting to change it falls away, then the energy behind life might change it to the possibility of that, because the body is somewhat, in my understanding and how I've seen it, somehow showing us the limitations that our thinking have created. And when the limitations fall away, the symptoms are not needed anymore. So often they can just simply clear away. But nonetheless, even if you don't have the healing in the physical level, but the way you're gonna experience your body is totally open at any moment. And so that's so inspiring to be hearing that from you. I would love to have this conversation with Sid. You know, it's just such a shame that we can't do this, because I was just so curious that, like, the first generation facilitators don't seem to include the body in their teachings, in their sharings. And I was always curious about that. And in the beginning, when I was getting more and more experiences on the physical level, I felt quite insecure that I didn't know how can I talk about that if nobody else does, you know? But I mean, it was so strong in me that I just went along with it because it felt so inspired and so right. And it's more and more people now that include this into their understanding, and I think it's very, very valuable. I imagine if you can, you know, live beyond your health issue, You know, it's just, and if it even clears away, even better, but, you know, not necessarily necessary, because we're okay and perfect just as we are.
That's right. I know Sid seldom spoke about the health issues, even his own, when they came up. That the health issues was secondary. So when people asked him about it, I don't recall him responding very much on that level. He would always just come back to the source, to talking about who you are inside, your spirit, the spirit, and how mind, consciousness, and thought works together. And just to live the best life that you know. There was never any judgment about illness or anything like that. But he did not, in my memory, ever address it very much. Even though in his book, Second Chance and In Quest of the Pearl, that was part of his writing. But you know, miraculous things did happen. There were children with brain damage who later on were not brain damaged anymore. There were people with cancer who lost their cancer, yes. But that was not his focus. So, you know, and throughout my life, in my early life, I had some issues that disappeared completely as well. And now that I'm on in years a little bit, I'm having some issues appear again. And I'm dealing with them as holistically as I can. But the comments that I get from people are, oh my gosh, I had no idea you were dealing with something. You know, they'll notice some small thing I'm doing and notice a small difficulty, but that is not the focus of my life either. I love to play with my grandchildren. I'm active. I love to be outdoors. And that's where my focus is. And into the enjoyment and appreciation of what we've been given and of life. So in the best way that I can, I'm living what I have learned from Sid. So, you know, hopefully things ease up and I have times where I'm feeling much better, but we're all human, right? So I have much more compassion and understanding for people who are going through things. You know, we grow in different areas of life via the experiences we personally have. So I have much more feeling for those that are struggling with health issues. But I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on those things. I just understand it. So anybody else want to?
I guess for me, I mean, you know, I've only listened to Sid a fairly small amount, but and I hear exactly what you're saying about the focus being just on who we are and how we come to experience this life, and yet people have taken it into their specialism, if you like. So people have taken it into addictions, and I'm sure that Sid probably didn't say this is going to help addictions in the same way that he didn't say about the body. But as you say, the focus is deeper within, and I think, you know, what my interest is, and Katya as well, I think, is how is not so much to give the promise of healing, but to do exactly what you're saying is to give the promise of feeling wellness with whatever, you know, despite or behind the physical symptoms. And that's certainly been my experience, is that some of my health has improved, but also the big part is just that my experience of my health is just radically different. And the topic of the course that we are going to be doing in Spain is around the relationship to our bodies. And I had an experience before coming across the principles, which was a little for me, it was a little precursor of what the mind can do, what mind can present, fresh thinking, or fresh, something that was never there before, or fresh seeing. And I was lying in bed one morning, and I have a sclerosis on the spinal cord, which has all sorts of funny symptoms. And I'd been having a fairly low period of feeling fairly depressed about it. And one morning I woke up at 4 a.m, and an osteopath friend of mine had been calling it a liege instead of a lesion. And I woke up, and just the thought came to address this sclerosis as my liege. And as soon as I, you know, in the sense of the old English, you know, yes, my liege. As soon as I turned my attention to that kind of respect, or that kind of appreciation that there was something bigger than me in charge, that it wasn't me trying to do something about my sclerosis, but it was me not in abeyance, but in service of my body, and listening to my body in that way. Just instantly there was a whole different feeling in my whole body, just from that one thought of, you know, that play on words that came from nowhere, came from out of the blue, came from and that was, you know, that really struck me. And when I started experiencing how the principles play out, and bringing fresh thought, bringing out of this this unknown place, that really struck me, that just something can shift and change experience completely. Something can shift from one way of seeing it to something completely different, something completely new, something completely fresh. Anyway, I can see Darko's raising his hand, so I'll unmute Darko.
Hi. I just wanted to share my viewpoint on the subject. And is that it's my own observation that what we actually want is the good feeling. And the good feeling not connected to our health, actually. Deep good feeling, like the juice of life, you know, enjoying in the moment, the beauty of the moment, the feeling of fullness. That's what we actually want. And we can see that there can be a situation when you don't have good health, but you have that. And the other situation when you have good health, but don't have that. And I assume that I know for myself that I somehow prefer this feeling of fullness from inside, regardless of my health. You know, that's what actually makes life beautiful. So that's why the health drops to, you know, to the background. It's not so important anymore when you see that it's not a crucial factor for what you actually love in life. And it's really not. And I see I have some health issues and ups and downs, and then I see that when I realize deeply that I can have the deep fulfillment and enjoyment in life regardless of the physical condition, then, you know, a deep resistance in your subconscious drops off and you automatically get healthier. And so when you really, you know, look at it, it's like there's something else that's more important to us. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Darko. That feeling that you're talking about, it carries you through your illness or through anything adverse in your life. And that's definitely been my experience too. The physical part simply just becomes secondary when there's greater things going on. You're not hung up on those things that held you back before, you know. It doesn't become the focus of your life. There's some much better, deeper things that carry us through life once we see it. So how fortunate we are, like when we feel gratitude for the things that stir us deeply, the things, knowing that we have that source that carries us. It helps us live in a state of grace, you could say, that lifts us through any condition, including the physical, regardless of what the results are on the outside. I've been with people when they've passed away, and they've been in a state of grace when they left, because they saw beyond the physical. So even at that point, right to the end, having that understanding takes you through every day of life and into the next. You know, how fortunate we are when we find something that's within us, that we all have,
Yeah.
that we can elicit in others. You know, thank you for your sharing, Darko. I love that feeling that you spoke about.
And I even heard stories about people that are like terminally ill, and then at one point of the illness they just let go of everything. So they they come into peace with the idea that they will die, and they let go of all the attachments to anything. It happens like that. And then they feel, in that moment, they feel the fullness of life for the first time in their lives. You know, and suddenly they feel happier than they have ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happens sometimes that they get well, they recover. They recover, and then what could happen that they, they return to their daily life, and they regain their attachment. They get attached again. And then they get ill again.
Mm-hmm. The human condition.
Yeah.
Mm.
What we do all the time, isn't it? In and
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
In and out. Yes. And that's totally innocent, and that's part of the fun in a way. Yeah.
But how beautiful it is for us that we can find that beautiful feeling that lifts us. And we don't have to wait till we're at the very end when we finally let go and find that feeling, that we can let go at any point in life. Let go of all of our attachments to find something deeper inside. And it struck me when you were talking about your problem on your spine and how it shifted for you. It was what you described to me was a shift in your thought about it.
Mm. Mm.
And, that's the principle of thought,
Mm.
In action. And that's what we do. We use the principles, we live the principles in action, whether we know it or not. And if we're lucky enough to recognize that it's happening, the feeling goes even deeper because it's gratitude. So thank you again,
Mm.
So again, it's always back to that feeling for me. That's where the learning takes place. So, and that's where my health gets better. That's where the world looks brighter. Things go smoother. It's all connected to that feeling of gratitude and acknowledgement of the source, where it comes from.
Yeah. And one other thing that is hard to understand for a lot of people, and sometimes for me too, is that even material security comes from that place. And people are afraid to let go and to relax into that place because of they won't be in control and they will lose their material security in this world, But that is also in that place.
Can you give an example?
Of
of seeing that, or
yeah, well, something like that happened to me talking to Katya this morning. Because I got into the idea that I have to earn money to live and that I have to work for it, It takes work. But through this conversation, I remembered what I knew already and what I saw many times, but again forgot. That the security and the perfection of life giving you what you need is here, and that you can see it when you're in that feeling in yourself, and that what leads you in life, what like guides you in life is the feeling of enjoying life and doing what you want and what you love, not what you think you have to do. Because I had periods of both, of trying to achieve something and struggling and with little results, and the opposite, not trying at all and just trusting and getting much better results. And I see that all the best things come out of where you least expect them. When you least expect them. It always, happens like that. And then the less you expect, the more and the sooner it will come. There's a story, I don't know if it's a story like, there was a god Shiva, and his friend the cow, and they talked about something, and then Shiva said, "Oh, wait a minute, I have to go to Earth for a few minutes. There's one of my, I don't know the word, people that I protect, and he's in trouble, and I have to take care of it." And he disappeared, and then in a second he was back again, and the other one asked him, "What was it? What, you dealt with it already, or what?" And he said, "No, the guy started to defend himself, so I saw that I'm unnecessary there." So he returned. I don't know if you got the point of the story. The point of the story is that by struggling and trying from your personal mind, you block the universal life giving you abundance of whatever you need. Yeah, but it's all beautiful when it's here, when you remember and when you are in that feeling. But it's not that you can, at least for me, like invite that feeling anytime I want. Some days I can, some days I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just mentioned something, that sometimes things don't go the way you expect them, right? And I thought it was quite funny, because for a moment we thought we wouldn't have a meeting, and now we're talking about the most beautiful things. and we learned the most beautiful things about how sits all this. And I actually, Marika, while you were talking, and you said to make that it was actually the principle of thought that made that shift happen, from seeing it as a lesion to seeing it as a liege. And in that moment, I just got totally hit by that can happen again anytime. That possibility to see it different again is just always there. It doesn't matter how great we already feel. So there's no end to that when we believe what we're thinking, when we believe what we're feeling to be a reality, and be it even in a good way, but there's even better waiting for us all the time. And that's totally gone clearer. Like, I have heard this before, I've seen this before, but that went like, wow, that went right, that went right into a different dimension of that.
It's lovely that there's no end. And I feel like such a beginner myself. You know, I feel like I have just begun to scratch the surface and have had such abundance because of it. And I love what you say, you know, that it can just keep happening. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because of it being one thought thick. You know, it's the one thought that creates the next opening or the next shift.
That's right.
And so at one moment, at one point, that, like you said, it can always be better and better and better. And the more truth we see, it always gets better. And you know, we couldn't even imagine in what way the whole thing of life could get better. And then when we have the insight and see something further, the step further, it actually is even better than we thought. I don't have that insight now, but I remember I did.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, because this is heaven. This existence here is actually heaven on earth. It's paradise. Originally, when we don't interfere with thoughts, personal thoughts, this is paradise.
What else is there to say? Oh. Anyway, I think this is a good moment to wrap it up. Or is there any more questions or some comments?
Maybe I'd like to ask Marika if, you know, you're in Vancouver, you said, are there like some pre-peak projects or people doing it, or more than in other parts of the world generally? I mean, and it all came from there.
Well, it's interesting that there's so much going on in Europe right now. I think more than in Canada. And quite often that's the case where something originates.
Yeah.
It takes a while before it comes back, right? So there are a few people. There are a few people who do practice in this area and on Salt Spring Island, where, you know, I spend a part of my year every year on Salt Spring Island, and there are, you know, a few of the original people that listen to Sid still there as well, who are doing great work, like Elsie Spittle and Chip Chipman, and there are others. So, yeah, but not so much in Vancouver. There's less than going on out in the world. Interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it maybe that there's just people going more into just living a good life themselves without I mean, in Europe, or it was at least for me, when I came across the principles, I immediately knew that I had to be sharing this with others, and I totally stopped all my other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there seem to be lots of that sort of people around now that make the principles their work. While I see that many people that have been impacted in the early days just continue doing what they were doing. They were just living their lives, and like you're not doing this as a job, but it is, your job is impacted by it.
Absolutely. The principles work through us, whether we talk about them or not, because it's felt. And that's where the power is. I remember Sid walking through a grocery store and talking to the cashier about the weather, and their faces would just light up. It's not always what you talk about, it's just who you are and carrying the feeling with you. And when I first met Sid, the very first day we met him, we'd heard his talks on tapes and met other people but the first time we talked with him, he talked to us, it was just this time of year, and we talked about a holiday that we're going camping on the West Coast, and we talked about our family, nothing spiritual or nothing like that. He saw that there was a young nervous couple in front of us, and he put us at ease and just had the most ordinary conversation. And we left the room feeling like we were walking 10 feet off the floor. We didn't know what hit us. It was so powerful that, that's what it is that does the work. And it's wonderful when people are curious and they ask, and then we share, of course. And I have had opportunity through my work at various times to come and share what I know and to speak to educators and do that kind of thing. But it's also okay to just live your life happy, because that impacts whatever you do or whoever you're around. So I love it that there are people, practitioners, sharing. A lot of the people that were involved initially were not health practitioners in any sense. At the time, I was a preschool teacher, and I stopped work to raise my own family when we met Sid. And other people also, that was not what they were doing. And some were compelled to take this into their professions. And I love to share when I have the opportunity. But to make a living right now, I work with youth. And it's amazing. I love what I do. I'm so grateful to have a job and to be able to share in any way I can. So thank you for the opportunity to share with you today. I thought I was just going to sit in and listen. I didn't realize I'd be on speaker.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. I'm not so good with the computer, and it was the first time I tried setting it up on this computer at work. So
yeah. No, it's very nice.
It worked fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. I mean, just for information for others that joined a little later, we were planned to do this Meet Your Body Afresh today, and then we were sitting and it was just the three of us, Darko and Mick and I, and we were wondering what to do, because we thought maybe people got the time wrong because we were an hour earlier starting than usual with our Zoom forum meetings. So then we ended up suddenly just having a conversation when Marika came online, and here we are having this beautiful talk about all those things. So we're surely going to put it online on our website, and we, not next week, but the week after, we're going to repeat the interactive webinar idea again. and hopefully then do the fun exercises that you wanted to do, is like really looking at something in our body and seeing and checking in with the relationship of that, and to just illustrate how quick one's thought changes and it all looks different. So yes, so thank you for all of you being there, and hope to see you again soon.
Did you want to quickly say something, Renata? You had your hand up earlier. Or is it
I
past?
wanted to say thank you for following your passion. For me, I want to talk about the relationship of how it, through principle, works in the body.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I love the principles. For me, the insight into mental wellness is, oh, I'm not nuts? Okay, I can relax, fine. However, I've experienced sufficient debilitating physical manifestations that it brought my life to a halt. And I want to work on reclaiming that health.
Mm.
Well, actually, I want to manifest it. It's there. Just want to take the time to enjoy it and manifest it. So thanks.
Yeah, sorry, Renata, I didn't see your hand up, so I missed that.
Oh, terrible. I shall jump over the second balcony.
No, in these meetings, Mick's responsible for the technical stuff, so I'm off with the, I'm not responsible there.
Okay, Mick, next time I'll wave my hand to you.
No, I'm just joking.
I'm delighted that the people I wanted to share the next meeting with all showed up on their own. So very delighted for that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent. So we'll put out another newsletter for when the next one will be. And of the people here, is this a good time? Is this a good time for you? The time that you did turn up, or the time you were intended to turn up, or what's? We had it at 5 p.m. UK time, which was 1 p.m. Daylight Eastern, and so you're in daylight. What do you call it on the Pacific? That's a Pacific time, yeah. PDT. Is this a good time anyway, or would you prefer it later? Or
if you're putting in next week, it works.
it'd be the week after next. I think 2 weeks time.
2 weeks time. Worst case scenario, I'll watch the replay.
Yeah, we should be ready, aren't we, Renata?
There's 4 of us that have a meeting at noon Eastern time.
Yeah.
4 p.m. UK.
Yeah.
How long is the meeting?
An hour and a half. But that's not going to be forever. There's 2 more.
Oh dear.
By April 1st, they'll be done.
Okay, well, maybe we do then in the first week of April that we do something, because I don't know. Let's see. We just have to see how things fit in. Did you take note of that, Mick, with the times? I didn't hear because it cut off.
I think it'll probably be either the same time we were planning, which is 7 UK time, or 7:30 UK time. Which
6 p.m. UK.
Say that again.
That's 6 p.m. UK.
Yes, usually.
Sorry,
we have
UK time. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 p.m. UK time. Yeah.
Sorry, you just keep breaking up, so I'm missing bits. So, yeah, that's okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
unmute us all just to wave goodbye.
Everyone is unmuted, and thank you all
Thank
for
you.
sharing
Thank you.
and being in this lovely feeling.
Thank you all for putting it on.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Oh, I'm not recording.